We just need some good news that's going to make us feel good, and you can deliver that today. It's always good to see you.
It's so great to see you, Gail. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me, and I'm happy to bring a smile to the morning.
Yes.
Hopefully, yeah, it's lovely to see you. You always make me smile.
We need it. So what is the big announcement? Drum roll, please. What is it?
Yeah, happiness for me, hopefully for my fans too. I'm going back to Las Vegas for my Come On Over show, my residency at Planet Hollywood. So I'm very excited about that. My entertainment home, very excited about that. So.
You know what's so great? Chris Stover, who's a big cheese around, who's producing the show today, said, I've already seen the residency he had been in. I said, what did you like about it, Chris? He said, everything. He was that specific. Everything. Why is this so special to you, Shania?
Well, first of all, it's a very special time for me. I'm happier than ever to be on stage. I'm just loving life, and I'm loving sharing my new music, and I'm just feeling really happy, and I'm hoping to just get up there and bring some inspiration and more positivity and resharing my album Come On Over. It's a reshare. It's like a reunion. The Diamond Edition is, it's been 25 years since I released it. So all the hits will be in the show, and hopefully we'll just have a lot of fun together. I'm looking forward to just sharing music and being in the same room with everybody that just wants to celebrate and take a break from sometimes everyday real life.
Yes.
Yeah, we all can use that. Shania, you mentioned your tour right now. It's being just back out on tour and with new music. You said with the Queen of Me album, your first one in 5 years, what was that writing process for you like, getting that new music out there?
Well, the new music from Queen of Me is really what I'm calling it my happy album, because I really wrote it to cheer myself up. So be able to share it and to share that cheer and that celebration with everybody is makes me really happy. And so I wrote it to cheer myself up, and I hope that it works for everybody else.
Mission accomplished. You cheered a lot of people up. I got the album as soon as it came out. I love Brand New. I love that song, and I like Got It Good. Got It Good.
Thank you so much.
And we got it good hanging out with you. Shania, it's great to see you again. I was able to hang out with you on the set of Superfan with my co-host Kelty Knight. And I want to ask you about meeting your super fans. It's one thing to see them in the crowd at a concert, but to see them face to face, what was that experience like?
My favorite thing is to interact with the fans. And it's not the easiest thing to do when you're on a stage and there's thousands of people out there and there's a barrier between you and the stage. So to meet them in person and to feel their excitement and to share it with them is everything. It's just personal. It connects me with the people that I want to share the music with in the first place. And I get all giddy about it, to be honest. It's very exciting.
Well, we got giddy about you, Shania.
We may have been singing.
I love the people that you're planning to bring on stage. You're touring with Breland, Mickey Guyton, Kelsey Ballerini. You're bringing out the biggies too on stage with you. I think that's fun.
Well, these are all artists. I wanted to be able to bring different artists out throughout the course of the Queen of Me tour, so that I could, keep sharing the stage with upcoming artists. I mean, these are young artists that are still. They're establishing themselves still, and I just want to share my audience with them and keep the diversity flowing as well. And
but Shania, we can say this: you are still the queen. And before we go, would you please give a shout out to Chris Stover? This man adores you.
I was going to ask the same thing.
Did you just say, "Hey, Chris Stover"?
Chris Stover, love you.
Oh, man.
His year is made.
I wonder if he'll keep that video. Thank you, Shania Twain.
And Shania, you look better than ever.
Switzerland.
You must have found the fountain of youth, girl. You look good.
I want that pill. Thank you. You look fantastic. Thank you. You too.
Thanks for coming on.
We're coming to Vegas with Chris.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
I think Chris is passed out.
I want to go to Chris.
Chris, you all right?
Good to see you, Governor Burgum.
Great to be here, Gail. Tony, Nate, fantastic.
We could say you're already different in that you walked over here from the hotel. That's number one, makes you different. But you are playing, Governor, a game of getting to know you. You're polling at 1%. I'm curious, and I don't want a big, long speech, but why you want this job and why you think you can break through at 1%.
Well, first of all, we want this job because we know that if you do this job right, you can improve every American life. And our mission is to do that, improve every American life, bring out the best of America. And as governor, I have an opportunity to see that. When you're in the executive branch, you do the job right. Every day you can wake up and make a difference in people's lives. And in terms of breaking through, we've just been in this race a little over 2 months. People are just getting to know us. In the states where we've been on the ground, our polling numbers, we've been as high as tied for 4th in New Hampshire already. And so I wouldn't look at the national polls. I'd look at the state polls where we're out there working.
But in order to qualify the debate, you know, and you're getting a little bit of flack for it, you had to give people, you gave them gift cards. You said if they donated $1, you would give them a gift card. So people said, well, what does that say about your candidacy if you have to essentially pay people? What do you say to that?
Well, I just say I think it's terrific that we're talking about this because as an entrepreneur, business person, someone who grew up in a town of 300 people in North Dakota, one of the things that I spent 30 years in my life in tech, if you're starting an online retail store, if you're a young person today, you got to have a promotion. You have to have a way to break through. And so we did that. Turns out if you tell people, hey, we'll give you a gift card if you come to the DougBurgum.com, guess what? They come and hey, I want to buy a T-shirt. I want to buy a mug. Maybe I want to give, $25. Maybe I don't need the gift card because this guy seems interesting. And
maybe they'll learn more about you in the process.
No, absolutely. And then guess what? They come back. This is not a one-time. We're building relationships. So I just want to take this moment and say thank you to all the supporters across the country that helped us get here because these rules were set up as clubhouse rules, trying to keep a young outsider like me out of the game. And so we're thrilled to be there.
Well, you're a successful entrepreneur, wealthy man. Do you plan to spend your own money on your campaign? Or what percentage do you anticipate that you'll spend?
Well, it's way overblown in terms of how wealthy I am, but the press.
Well, you have a couple of bucks.
That's not a bad rumor to have out there.
That's right.
You want to squash those now?
But I'm saying, I had an opportunity, growing up in that small town. My dad passed away when I was a freshman in high school. My mom went back to work, a widow with 3 kids. I understand what it's like to be a working mom, paying the bills. Yeah. But I had 160 acres of farm ground. That's not enough to farm in North Dakota. Dryland wheat farming, you need thousands of acres. But I took that, literally bet the farm. That was the seed capital for a software startup. We built it into a 2,000-person, billion-dollar company with customers in 132 countries. Did it all with kids from small towns. So we've got something to bring here because we know technology is changing every job, every company, every industry, but it hasn't changed government yet. There's so much cost we can take out of government if you do it right.
Governor, politics is about contrasts, and I am loath to do it, but I will ask you what you think about the now 4th federal indictment against the far and away frontrunner for the Republican nomination, former President Donald Trump.
Well, I think I've been asked this question a lot, and I give the same answer, which is, wow, there's a whole industry in our country talking about divisiveness, talking about, opinions, legal opinions. All this stuff has to work through the courts. And here we are, we're trying to talk about the future. So our whole campaign is how we're going to improve every American life, what we're going to do on economy, on energy policy, on national security, how we can move it forward. And I'm going to leave it up to this whole industry to debate about.
But in order to do that, Governor, you still have to get past, take on Donald Trump. And you seem reluctant to do that publicly. True?
And shouldn't your voters know how you feel about the front runner in your party?
Well, I think it's just...
Listen, you're North Dakota governor. I know you're a Vikings fan. Let's imagine we're talking about the Minnesota Vikings right now. And Trump is a starting quarterback. How do you feel about what's going on with him?
Yeah, and by the way, I was traumatized by the 4 Viking Super Bowl losses, but I've worked my way through that. We're still hoping for that one Super Bowl win. But on in terms of this question, when we started that software company, the first trade show I went to at Comdex, I opened up the book. There were 63 other accounting software companies. I didn't walk out and the very first customer I met say, hey, let me tell you why, that market leaders got all these issues. Because they can figure that out on their own. Well, I had to tell them, here, what we can do for you. So we're still in that stage 2 months into it. We got to tell people, this is what we can do.
It's more about you, not about Trump.
Well, it is right now. We got to tell a story. But in North Dakota, we're on track to have the highest GDP in the nation. We're a state that said we're going to be carbon neutral by 2030, but we're doing it with no mandates, no regulations. We're doing it all through innovation. And I'll tell you, the energy policies we have in this country right now are completely backwards. China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day. And we've got, Blinken, Yellen, and Kerry going over there, and no one's even talking about energy policy. Putin doesn't even invade Ukraine if he doesn't have all of Western Europe. So we have to start selling energy to our friends and allies, stop buying it from our enemies. That would, all of you, all of us, everybody's paying too much for their gas, too much for every consumer good. And the inflation that's choking this nation right now, $700 more a month for the average working family. We've got to fix the economy. We've got to fix energy policy. And if we do that, we're going to make the world more stable. Both of those things tie directly into national security.
Well, Governor, we do appreciate you being here. I appreciate all the barley that comes out of North Dakota. It's in the beer we're all drinking this summer. Before we let you go, we'll sneak in one more question here because I think it's an important one. My friends on the right, they tell me they think there's 2 tiers of justice. You've said that as well. They also think the former president's being persecuted. And yet, it's trust in our institutions, in our systems that lets you run for president, lets all of us believe that the leader of our country is the true leader of our country. And you've got the former president leading up to January 6th, casting doubt on that system, continuing to this very day to tell people, to lie to the American public that there was fraud, widespread election-changing fraud. As a leader in this country, as someone running for a job where that election matters, do you think he's dangerous to democracy? And can you say something in support of that system that you're going to lead?
Well, I think, again, you talk to the average Americans, and I know there's something that's going viral this week. It's a highlight reel of every political pundit, every news host back in 2016 saying the Russians hacked the election. So people see that, and then they see this, and they go, what's the difference? Both sides.
What do you see, though? I don't want to hear about people. What about you, Doug Burgum?
Well, the voters are the ones that are going to decide, so what the people think matters, not what the pundits
It does matter. It does matter. But you're going to lead those people. But you're a voter as well. So, you have thoughts. Yeah. Tell me.
Well, I think it's bigger than any particular indictment. If Americans do not trust the institutions of justice.
Do you trust it? Should they trust it?
If you want to establish trust in an organization, you have to change leadership. That's why I'm running for president, because any business that I've ever been involved with, any state, state that I'm leading now, the citizens respond to the leadership at the top. If they know that that person has got the character, the integrity, and the ability to establish trust, if they know that what they'll do. When you grew up in a small town of 300 people, every transaction, everything you do, every action you take, on the field, off the field, whatever, everybody knows there's accountability. My whole life has been about building trust with customers and partners. We need leadership that people can trust. Right now, we're not seeing that in either party. That's why we're running. People have
Governor.
Competition.
You're saying you can't trust Donald Trump. All right.
Okay.
I hear you.
We appreciate you.
Great. Thanks for having us on. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
In our series, TikTok Famous, we highlight influential content creators who turn viral moments into internet fame. Yiming Lin has an interesting way of studying culture. He does it by cooking meals for perfect strangers. Elaine Quijano shows us how Lin finds his recipes and how his literally starving TikTok account gained more than 1 million followers.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Talking to strangers on the streets of New York City generally isn't something most people do.
Can I ask you a quick question?
But with one question, Yiming Lin makes people comfortable enough to drop their defenses, even for just a moment.
Can I ask you a quick question? If I could cook you one meal, what would it be?
Chicken over rice any day.
Lin's project began as a creative outlet, a way to wind down after working his day job in the tech industry. It's now evolved into a TikTok account called Literally Starving, where more than 1 million followers watch him prepare home-cooked meals for strangers.
I go around interviewing people.
Before recording any interaction, Lin explains his project and asks permission before rolling.
I always start off with saying, if I could cook you one meal, what would it be? As a quick introduction into their background or their history. Would you want to participate in the project?
He cooks for people whose families come from all over the world and whose culinary experiences differ from his own Chinese-American upbringing. It's a chance to learn about food that's often new to him, but is a comforting taste of home for his subjects.
How is it?
It's so good.
Wow.
I'm gonna tear it up.
Yeah, I deliver the food to them and we have a meal together and we talk a little bit more about where they come from, who they are, and why the meal is important to them. Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure. Ajoa Jack, who goes by AJ, chose a meal reflective of her family's roots.
I'd say curry chicken and roti.
Curry chicken and roti, amazing. What type of curry chicken?
Ooh, well, Trinidadian curry chicken, that's what I'm
Nice.
thinking.
Is that where you're from?
Yes, it's my family's from.
What?
Each dish, including AJ's, starts with Lin researching recipes and hunting down ingredients.
So I gotta buy onions, garlic, ginger, cilantro, and a Scotch bonnet.
He makes everything from scratch, a process he estimates takes about 5 to 6 hours and roughly $50 to $100 per meal. Lin considers himself lucky that he's been able to cover his expenses. The popularity of his TikTok has allowed him to monetize the project.
Oh, okay.
Moment of truth.
Reactions, he says, are his reward.
How was it?
I like it. It's like very similar.
Really?
Actually, yeah.
Nice.
You did a great job.
Thank you. I try with every meal, I try to inject soul and love and care into the food.
What are you hoping for with each person that you meet and each person that you cook for?
Every time I interview the person, it's about the person themselves. I want to make sure that that person's story is highlighted, their cultural background is told.
Focusing on others is the point, he says, and why he thinks his videos resonate with so many.
It's that gesture of nourishing people, and I think for a lot of cultures, food is love, and to receive love from a stranger can both be scary, but also it brings up the idea that the world can be a kinder and better place because someone is going out of their way to cook for you, to nourish you.
In a world of mostly disposable content, Lin hopes to provide sustenance that lasts.
Thank you so much.
No problem. It tastes accurate. It does.
Okay, thank you.
First on CBS Mornings, Michele Norris joins us here live and in color. It's good to have you here.
It is great to be here.
I love that you started with Michelle Obama because she has written extensively. Many people know her work. But she talked about the kitchen table, and she painted such a description of the yellow table. That's where we played cards. That's where there were cigarette burns. That's where we did homework. That's where we had debates. And that's what a kitchen table is, isn't it?
It is.
They call it the heart of the home for a reason.
Everything happens in the kitchen.
Yes.
Everything happens in the kitchen. This winds up being a show about food, but about so much more, because our loudest laughter is in the kitchen, but so too are our loudest debates and sometimes our loudest arguments. It's where bills stack up on the table.
So true.
Yes, that is so true.
It's where siblings snap towels at each other. You remember doing that?
Of course, but I love the idea of how this came about. Number one, I think it's such a unique idea. But you said you got it from doing mic checks. When I do mic checks, I go, Gayle's mic, Gayle's microphone, test, test, test. But you do something else, and that sparked this idea.
Well, I was on radio for many years on NPR, and I have a low voice, and so the mic check sometimes has to go a little bit longer so they can match someone else's voice level with mine. And the standard question is, what did you have for breakfast?
Yes.
So what did you have for breakfast?
I have had coffee.
Okay, and that's the problem.
Right.
Yes.
People just say one thing, cereal, coffee, toast, nothing. And so I asked a series of different questions. Paper or plastic at the grocery store? Your first summer job? Tell me about your mama's kitchen. And that last question always took people to an interesting place. They opened up, they started to reveal things about themselves, and I always thought, that would be a great podcast because everyone has a story.
But nobody thinks about this, though. That's what honestly, that's why I find so interesting. And you know Michelle Obama very well. Did you learn something about her that you didn't know?
Well, that's what's amazing about asking that simple question.
Yes.
She's written 2 books. She has gone on tour to more than, 45 cities in the U.S. and overseas. And yet, we learned something new about her in this conversation that she's never talked about before because we enter a different door, the kitchen door.
So episode 1, you have Michelle Obama. I don't know how you followed that up. But then episode 2, you get Gayle King in the building. And we have a clip, and Gayle talks about one of her mother's holiday traditions. Let's listen to that.
Thanksgiving was a big deal because she did all the cooking, but, she did all the cooking always. She had a thing that we always each had to slap the turkey before it went in the oven.
Wait, what?
Yes, exactly right.
Wait, was this...
Slap the turkey.
Was this superstition? Was it...
Because my mom said, I think that was just her way of engaging us. She said that it made the turkey more tender. And so we would all have to come in the kitchen, line up, and do on a raw turkey. Yeah, he was all basted and all that good stuff, and we'd all slap it, and she said that would make it more tender.
I hadn't thought about that in a million years. And when she first asked me, guys, I said, I really don't have any mama kitchen table stories. But what you realize is that everybody does, even though we're not thinking about it.
Yeah. And you're going to start a new tradition. People are going to be slapping their turkey
to make it tender.
What surprised you about Gayle that you learned in the way that you were talking about Michelle Obama?
Well, I didn't know that you spent part of your childhood in Turkey.
In Turkey, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
And I think I understand a lot more about you as a journalist, about how you're able to connect with people so quickly because you were moving so much as a kid.
I hadn't thought about it like that.
Making new friends and new places, and I feel like I understand you as a person, but a lot more as a journalist.
I also like that the kitchen, thank you, Michelle, for saying that, but the kitchen is normally a place where the woman dominates. And what we realize is that everybody loves to be in the kitchen. And even today, I'm looking for a new apartment, and I said, it has to have a kitchen that's eaten. I don't even cook.
It's where everybody gravitates
But everybody gravitates.
Yeah.
How do you address that? That you think of the kitchen as a women's space, but it's so much more than that.
And more fathers are in the kitchen now.
Yes.
I love being in the kitchen.
And
That's
he can
great.
actually
That's
cook,
fantastic. I'm married to someone who loves to be in the kitchen also. He's a great cook. Our whole family cooks. The stories are mainly about people's mothers, grandmothers, aunties, but, you know, the men in the picture do sometimes enter the kitchen.
Next season, you'll interview the men.
Oh, maybe it's Daddy's barbecue.
Ooh, okay, Michelle.
You know that. But the interesting thing about women in the title, I was worried a little bit about gendering this space.
Yes.
But the fact is that the kitchen is a gendered space, and women do most of the cooking in America. Even when both people work, it's usually the woman who's holding it down in the kitchen. But with people talking about their mothers, a lot of times they're talking about how the roles changed when feminism came along. But in some cases also, women who didn't have a lot of agency anywhere else in life were totally in control.
In control. So
Bravo, Michelle. And when you're talking to Michelle, you're just lulled by her voice. I said, I can just sit and listen to you talk about
Turns
it.
to a therapy session.
It really does. Michele Norris, thank you very much.
You know what else works? You in this role, Roger Bart. Welcome to CBS. Welcome to CBS Mornings.
This role and this look. I saw him in hair and makeup, and here he
Looks
is.
great.
Yeah.
Toned down.
I was actually thrown off when we had the tease. I was like, honestly, the show is fantastic.
Really is.
The audience is so into it. There's so much energy. The cast gives all that energy back to the audience. It is a knockout experience. As you can tell, I'm auditioning to get my name and like the signs outside. Knockout experience. Tony Dokoupil, CBS Mornings. What was it like for you to step into this role? Because it's an iconic role, right? It's like it's been done and done really memorably. So it's got to be tough as an actor to do that.
Very, very fun. You know, Chris Lloyd set the bar very, very high, but also because he is so wonderfully animated and so funny and so warm and so great in the role, he made it easier for some way for me. I swear that every time I come out on stage, it's a couple things that get the entrance applause. It's usually the car, Chris Lloyd, and then eventually they're like, who is that guy?
He's pretty good.
That's it. So Chris Lloyd did a great job. I'm just riding on his coattails.
He apparently came by, right, to say hello, to visit with the cast?
Yeah, he's come many times to see us. Great. He's so lovely.
There he is, right there.
Yeah, very supportive. His big question to me when we started out was, he said, "So what is this, a musical?" I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "Oh, I can't wait to hear how Doc sings." And I thought, yeah, me too. But
well, Doc sings very well. I love the Dreamer song. I thought you were so good. The thing that's fun about watching you, Roger, is that you seem to be having such a great time from the moment you step out on the stage. And I'm wondering, I was there Tuesday night, seat K113. I thought we were a very good audience.
You were excellent.
Does the audience make a difference for you and your performance?
It does.
I wonder.
It's the great scene partner that you don't have while you're in rehearsal, and then suddenly there they are. And I would say it's a little like just being on a funny blind date. You know, there are those great dates where you're like, just let's order another bottle of wine, like your audience.
Yes.
And then there are occasionally the ones where you're like, you know what, we'll just take the check.
But it's a mixture of theater and cinema, is it not? I've never seen a production like that, I have to say.
It really is. You know, we have a really exciting, Gareth Owen created a very great soundscape. It's very, very visceral to be in the show.
Very visceral.
And also, you know, Tim Hatley and the other designers, Hugh Van Stone, and Tim Lutkin, they've all created a world visually that is really like nothing you're ever going to see on Broadway ever.
It honestly feels like a movie and theater at the same time, but also like a ride almost. I mean, because everything's moving around you, and there's interactive elements, you know, bubbles or a little bit of water.
Oh yeah, bubbles.
Yeah, bubbles I suggest for every show, by the way. They're a great hit.
What was it like learning all the marks on stage? Because there really is like big moving equipment, magic on stage.
You know, it's deceptively dangerous up there.
I'll bet.
But you get used to it much the same way you guys around this set here.
You see how dangerous
know where all the
this
steps
is.
are. Yeah.
We're not throwing
You can fall off the chair. Yeah.
So, Roger, let's just say you hop in the DeLorean right now.
Yeah.
You go back to 1985.
Yes.
You catch yourself at the movie theater, about to walk in and watch Back to the Future.
Yeah.
What would you say to young Roger?
I would say try not to be too jealous of Michael J. Fox because he is so good looking and so talented. And just think to yourself, you know, possibly maybe one day down the road I'll get a chance to play like a role like Doc Brown, and here I am, so I'm a pretty lucky guy.
But all these years later, though, Roger, this movie, this play still resonates with so many people.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
You know what, I think it just is, it sort of checks a lot of boxes for somebody who loves to be. It's very entertaining.
Yeah.
You know,
It's magical.
we have a little sci-fi in there, which is pretty amazing. And we also have a really wonderful, warm family story about a kid who kind of gets to know his dad as a peer. And it's that's sort of an interesting idea that not a lot of us have seen before. So it kind of has a lot going for it. It's also really, really entertaining.
It is.
So, which is what you would ask about with me. I have a great time doing it. Because
it seems
is so
like
fun for people. You know?
And we love it when you break the fourth wall. And it's like you're talking to us outside of the script.
Yeah.
There's a good magic trick. I want to know how you did it.
The knives? I mean, there's a bunch of magic.
No, the way that he knows the magic trick. I want to know, how did you do that?
We got a few, so it's good. You'll have to come figure it out.
Yes, yes,
Great show. It's a great musical. My daughter loved it. 11-year-old Mia loved it, right?
Yep, she's 13 years old.
Huge.
It's
Take
great.
the whole family. Roger Bart, thank you very much.
We're happy to say that Greg Harden joins us live and in color in the studio. Good to see you, Greg Harden.
Oh, thank you so much.
We were all excited about you coming
Yes.
today. We were all talking about you before you came in a good way. Tom Brady says this: you're a progressive thinker ahead of your time. Desmond Howard says he wouldn't be a Heisman Trophy winner without you because you teach people to see beyond yourself. And you say about your book, it's not a conventional how-to book because it requires you to think. It requires you to think and read and get the best advice for yourself. And you say focus on being the best version of yourself. This is what I loved about this book so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. But we know that the phrase becoming the best version of myself has become very popular.
Yeah.
But how do you do it?
Yes.
And what I argue in the book and what I hope everyone will pick up from this book is to become the world's greatest expert on one subject, yourself. Because if I commit myself to knowing who I am, and if I know myself better than everybody else, I have a chance of even identifying what's working and what's not working in my attitude or my behavior.
But you know, Greg, the thing that stood out, there were many things that stood out to me, but one thing you said to Tom Brady, if you believe in yourself, doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Nate, don't you think that's
so
true?
good. It's so good.
When I read that, the hairs on the back of my neck stood out.
But it's hard to do that because, like in the book, Chapter 7, you talk about obsessing over criticism.
Yes.
And we're really good at being preoccupied with what everyone else thinks about us, what everyone else says about us. And we're constantly seeking everyone else's approval, their attention, their affection, and ultimately acceptance. And what we're saying is that the secret is not a secret, and that's self-love, it's self-acceptance.
But what if we're not a good person? What if we aren't at the top of our game? What if we're not doing it right?
Ready for this?
And that criticism is valid.
So what we're clear about and what we try to teach anyone that will listen, there's only one creature, a human being, it's the only creature that we know that can decide to be different today than they were yesterday. What other creature can do that? A dog gonna be a dog.
Right. Yeah.
Cow gonna be a cow.
Yeah.
But a human being can look in the mirror and decide to be something that they weren't yesterday.
Is there one thing, and there are so many great athletes, and when I tell you everybody at Michigan, any athlete that has come into contact sings this man's praises.
Yeah, I believe it.
Is there one commonality, though, that you see a thread between all of these athletes that have such greatness?
Whoa, be
That's a
careful
good
what
question.
you're asking. Because in the book, you will discover that one of the consistent themes when we see people who are going to the top of their game, and I'm not just talking about athletes.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
But they are not only hungry,
Yes.
they're humble. Hungry and humble. I want it so bad, but I am willing and able and committed to learning from others.
Yeah.
And being coachable.
Asking for help.
Come on, they're coachable.
Greg, you say when fear and self-doubt are predictable, they are manageable.
That's good.
I think that's very powerful, too. What do you mean?
The greatest enemy you have ever faced. The greatest enemy. I don't even know these people.
Well, you know me.
I tell you, the greatest enemy you've ever faced is fear and self-doubt.
Yes.
Nobody can jump on you like fear and self-doubt. And so what we're talking about is being able to predict that fear is predictable. And we begin to normalize the concept of being afraid. So instead of people saying, well, you should be fearless, you should stop being afraid, I say, stop being afraid
Of being afraid.
Yeah.
Think about that just for a moment.
Yeah.
You tell people to be perfect, and I went, huh? Huh?
Chase perfection.
Yeah.
I love perfectionists. A whole lot of my colleagues and people say, oh, he's a perfectionist, she's a perfectionist. Of course they are. But if they're serious about being a perfectionist, they have to pursue harmony.
But
They
don't
need to
expect
understand I'm yin and yang.
We could talk to you all day, Greg.
We really could, Greg Harden. We thank you so much. The computer's going to shut us off. But thank you for coming.
I'm so excited. Dr. Tatiana, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you for joining us. Now, you've used TikTok and YouTube to introduce people to the magic of physics. How did you decide to start doing that instead of taking the traditional route?
Well, these videos are just another way for us to connect with people.
Of course.
To bring physics to their homes. Why don't you start every morning with a physics experiment, or you bring physics experiments for your dinner table? So it's a mission of the department. I represent here a big group to make physics accessible, enjoyable to people. And these videos, they're just one way to do that. We run many events. One of them is Texas A&M Physics and Engineering Festival, when thousands of people come together to celebrate science, to celebrate physics.
Yeah.
Or I run these physics shows for little children or for high school children. We invite everyone. And one day, our very talented marketing team came and filmed me during this physics show.
Smart.
They posted it on TikTok at that
boom.
time. Yeah. And
An
it
explosion.
went viral. We didn't expect it at all. And I speak funny, so I don't know how it happened.
You speak perfectly fine.
So that's when we got a call from local TV station, and they told us, do you know that Texas A&M Physics has more views on social media than Texas A&M football? And we, no.
Very big deal.
Wow.
That was
What got
funny.
you interested in physics?
Ooh.
Well, I grew up in the city where physics education was superb. My parents were physicists, so I got my friends were physicists.
Wow.
I got a physics degree. But I never taught at that time. I did not teach back in the Institute of Applied Physics, Russian Academy of Sciences. I did not teach when I came to Texas A&M. I didn't have even any teaching experience. And then one day, I was offered to teach. And it was a small class, junior level class. What juniors? Third-year students, they're adults.
Yeah.
So I just walked into the classroom and I taught the class. And that was the moment when I realized how much I enjoyed this, interactions with students and everything.
Yeah.
And you would say, oh, successful story. No. Because 3 years later, when I felt that, I'm now an experienced instructor, I walked into a classroom of 100 freshmen, basically high school.
Yeah.
8 in the morning, it was their first class on Texas A&M campus,
Right.
and I was the first professor whom they saw.
Oh, no.
And just think for a moment.
Painful.
Who do you think people expect to see as their physics professor? Somebody Einstein looking. And they saw me.
Yeah.
Well,
It did not go well, let me tell you. They did not listen.
They're lucky to have you.
that's right.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
I was very different. That was the moment when I realized how important it is to make your class interactive, memorable. How important it is to connect with your students rather than just walk and start writing on the board.
Yeah. And your enthusiasm is infectious.
It really is.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. You know, when you deal with these physics shows and you have these physicists, by nature, they're second graders, kindergartens, and you do something and they start screaming, do it again, do it again, do it again.
Why is it important for young people to learn physics then, beyond the boom and the wow?
Well, we have to start early. We have to start early because these people are scientists just by nature.
Yeah.
They're so enthusiastic. And you know, after these shows over the years, I had so many girls and boys who would come to me and who would say, you know, I will be a scientist. I will be a physicist. And that's just wonderful. I wish this enthusiasm stays with people for years.
Well, it stays with us. This morning, we're talking about something we all deal with, letting go of the need to be perfect, with author L'Oreal Thompson Payton. In her new book called Stop Waiting for Perfect, she writes about overcoming her lifelong struggle with perfectionism. She says, quote, I bought into the idea that not only was perfection possible, it was the golden ticket for success, good health, popularity, you name it. Recovering perfectionist L'Oreal Thompson Payton joins us right now. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming in. Now, you write perfection is a hoax, a disease, a scam.
All of it.
How is perfection harming us?
Well, I think about the scene in Scandal when Olivia's dad rather said, you know, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. And in that moment, he was talking particularly to Black women. And it's just harmful. You know, we buy into this idea that if we be perfect, if we're doing everything that we're supposed to be doing, that we'll get to where we're trying to go. But that's not always the case. And we end up suffering physical health, mental health, emotional health, all of it, because the stress of perfectionism is really damaging.
And you'll never catch it. But I love how you opened up the book, L'Oreal. The first chapter, Peloton, Perfectionism, and Me.
Yes.
And it all started with you chasing that blue dot, and you made it 600. Explain what happened to you.
Yeah, I got the Peloton right before the pandemic, right before we started our IVF journey, and it was this thing that I could control when the world around me was falling apart. But 600-something days later, I lost my blue dot, and I cried.
The blue dot means?
The blue dot, you log in, you get a workout done, you earn your blue dot.
Shows that you had done it.
It's the gold star for adults and overachievers like me.
And you cried?
I cried, real tears.
Literally cried?
Real tears.
Yeah. Like, and what I realized afterward, though, you know, I'm the same person. I'm still L'Oreal. I'm still worthy of love and all of these things, even without the blue dots. So it was an awakening.
Isn't there something, though, to strive? Like, striving for perfectionism, doesn't it mean, well, you get this, you may not get up here, but you get here. Like we always say, strive for the best, reach for the stars, and then at least you'll get to here. Isn't there something good to that?
I think with anything, you know, it matters what you do with it. You know, it's not inherently good or bad, but rather your reaction and how you move about in the world. And so there's certainly nothing wrong with striving toward goals, but I think sometimes this idea of waiting for the perfect moment to quit the job, to leave the relationship, to write a book, to launch a podcast, whatever that is, can keep us, you know, safe in that comfort zone. But
because
that's
that
not where
it never exists.
Exactly.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah. But look at you, L'Oreal. You're valedictorian and president of your 8th grade class, editor-in-chief of your high school newspaper, magna cum laude in college, and yet you sit here today and say, I still sometimes feel a fraud. I still sometimes feel an imposter. How is that possible with all that you've accomplished?
I mean, it's happening right now, right? This is national television, and it's, you know, that voice, that inner critic that can tell you a lot of times, like, you're not good enough, you don't deserve to be there. And
you've named your inner voice Negative Nancy.
Yes. Yeah, because I love alliteration. And so I'm telling her to be really quiet right now. Like, shh, I'm in control. We've got this. This is the moment we've prepared for, so you got to sit down.
And I'll say, Negative Nancy, shut up.
Yeah.
Because L'Oreal deserves to be here. Chapter 5, you talk about feeling all the feels. And I love this because oftentimes when someone asks you, how are you doing? We have this automated autopilot response.
I'm good, yeah.
Instead of just feeling all the feels and really thinking about it and then identifying with your emotions, positive or negative. Why is that important?
Because we have to get in touch with how it is that we're really feeling and take some time getting quiet, being still, because we're going to go all the time and we can just brush past all of those emotions and sitting down. I use the feelings wheel. My therapist recommended it, and I'll go through a lot of times before our therapy session. I was like, I'm feeling anxious or nervous or all of these things, and writing them out actually helps me feel more in control and gives me more of like a, okay, girl, you got this. Like, it's okay to feel all of these emotions. You're human.
Okay, girl, you do got this.
You do got this.
Yeah. You said writing a book was harder than birthing a human. I would beg to differ, but bravo. bravo.
Well, you know what, Gayle, I wouldn't know anything about that.
Write the book.
L'Oreal, Thompson, Payton, thank you so much for joining us.